Cider Blossom Orchard. Just an absolutely amazing February day in the orchard today. It's about 55 degrees and wall-to-wall sunshine right now. And if I do anything at all with this sweatshirt on, I'll start to sweat out here today. It's just that nice. And again, I'm afraid this could be one of those years that we end up talking, having a pretty good conversation about apple bloom time temperatures and frosts and what that means for our crop. Hopefully things can cool off and just get these trees slowed down a little bit before spring gets here in full. But today, I wanted to talk to you about something that should have been talked about really last fall for those of you that have apple trees, and that's Sunscald. Sunscald is real, and I've dealt with it here at the orchard before I really knew how to deal with it. I dealt with some of the problems with Sunscald, and I'm getting a little bit better at that now. And that's why you see some white tree trunks behind me. I do go through the trouble of painting my tree trunks white on these young trees, and we're going to discuss why that is here in just a moment. Here we have a young Fuji tree growing here on the vertical axis wire. This tree's been in the ground just a couple of years, and it does have a light coating of paint on it, and what I use is interior white, interior latex paint, and I dilute that 50-50 with water. And that is a water-based paint, so you can dilute it 50-50 with water. So it gives you a real light coat painting on the trunk, and it reflects the sun rays, so it does not absorb. What happens is you can see how this side of the tree is lit up here in the wintertime. And this is pretty much the southwestern exposure. And over the course of a day like today, this trunk will get warm, and the cells will begin to transport some water. And when the sun goes down at night and you have that very sudden temperature change, the cells inside here will freeze and burst. And when that happens, it will essentially kill that portion of the trunk. And you'll see this a lot on your smooth bark trees, apples being one of those trees. Red maple is just another one that quickly comes to mind that has that smooth bark when they're young and are very susceptible to the Sunscald. So I do go through the trouble of painting these young trunks. This is the second coat that these trunks have gotten since they were planted. Just tried to freshen that up a little bit. It doesn't last long when you dilute it like that. It's a lot of trouble to come in here and do it. And I imagine if I had a sprayer of some sort that I could just, a battery held sprayer, I could just come through and spray the trunks with that. There'd be a lot of waste, but it would be a little easier perhaps on me, I'm not sure. But that's what that's all about. And when you see orchards with those white trunks, that's what they're doing. Now, if you look down there, I didn't hit that with the weed eater here recently. That's a rabbit nibble. They're pretty easy to tell when they get in here and chew a little bit on that bark, and they don't seem to mind the taste of latex paint at all. That's a problem. It's not a terrible problem if that's all they do, but that is a problem for the orchard. So let's take a look at some more trees. Here's another row of trees. These are newly grafted trees. Golden Delicious here, grafted last spring and planted out 1 year, and they'll get a trellis for support here this spring. I do not like the looks of that at all. I guess that's just shown up. That was not here just a couple of weeks ago. A little rabbit control may be necessary here, but you can see the white trunks painted on here. This will be necessary for the next few years in the lives of these young trees to keep that Sunscald from killing the bark. I'm going to show you an example now of what that looks like if you don't control it. What I have here is a Wine Crisp apple tree that was on G30 rootstock. G30 needs a little bit of support, and you can see I put some support in for that tree, and that did not do the job. So this G30 Wine Crisp, this is what Sunscald damage looks like and some of the, well, it's something that can happen with Sunscald. Whether that is exactly what happened here, I am not sure. But this is definitely the southwest side of the tree that started the initial rot and damage. And so we could have had a problem with the initial graft. Oddly enough, the neighbor to this tree, right over there, went down 2 years ago. And I planted a new one in theirs, and it had the same issue. These trees were very slow growing with this damage to the trunk, and I can see why. They were not getting much nutrient uptake. But this is what Sunscald will do. It'll kill this southwest side of the tree, and then the tree will begin to heal that off, and oftentimes they will. They'll heal it up. But for whatever reason, this tree, maybe it was a combination of a graft union that just didn't want to take, and then some Sunscald that did it in. But then this is your end result. Staked or not, if the trunk's rotten, the tree's going to come down. So try not to let that happen to your trees when they get just a little bit older, as in the case right down here. When they get just a little bit older, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You've got a thicker, tougher bark, you've got shading from the limbs above, and things are much better off.